Hey everyone, Brian Zane here, and I have to open up this video by saying I'm only wearing this hat because I'm still recovering from a terrible haircut, and y'all are not ready to see it just yet. But we're going to go back in time to a year where, ironically, I was wearing hats more often to cover the 2005 Royal Rumble from January 30th at the Save Mart Center in Fresno, California. Holy crap, we were just there 2 weeks ago for the 96 Rumble. We're going, back to Fresno. This show was nominated by Joey Williamson, Alex McFadden, and Edward Economist over at patreon.com/wrestlingwithwregret. I tell you what, I can still vividly recall a lot of what was going on in the company at this time. You know, rewatching the Raws and the SmackDowns and the build-up for this to prepare was a great trip down memory lane. I can remember watching this pay-per-view live as it happened my sophomore year in my boss's dorm room. He was my boss when I was an RA. Getting to watch it again for the purpose of this channel, it was a lot of fun to relive. And of course, one of the best things about this pay-per-view wasn't even the show itself, it was the commercial to build for the West Side Story parody. This whole thing was amazing. As a theater kid in school and as someone who played Doc in his high school production of the show, I can't even tell you how fun it was, how much it pleased my soul to see these promos at the time. This was a great year for pay-per-view promos. Between this and the stuff they did for WrestleMania 21 with the Hollywood parodies, whoever was in charge of the promo department at this time was on fire. But what I love about the fact that they had this whole West Side Story theme promotion for it, and of course you gotta show some love to the wigs that a lot of the guys wore there. My favorite part about those ads running and the fact the set for the pay-per-view reflects the whole New York, Rumble style of the movie. The show's taking place in Fresno, California. Yeah. Also, fun fact, this commercial shoot was famously crashed by some TNA wrestlers because it was filmed at Universal Studios in Orlando, where the Impact Zone was. They brought cookies and balloons. It was meant to be some big controversial incident, but it really just kind of came off like it was just a funny reunion amongst coworkers and colleagues. 12,000 folks at the Save Mart Center at Fresno State, 575,000 buys, makes this the most purchased Rumble until 2013, which was the final edition before the network came along. This is a joint brand show, of course. Michael Cole and Taz on commentary for SmackDown, Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler for Raw, don't forget Hugo Savinovich and Carlos Cabrera. Our opening match sees Edge taking on Shawn Michaels. What's going on with this feud, folks? Well, it all began at Taboo Tuesday. Ever since that show, Edge has felt repeatedly screwed by Shawn Michaels out of several title opportunities. He insists that Shawn's upstaging him because he's desperate for his TV time. I do remember really liking this version of Edge. I think it was his first real big heel run since coming back from his injuries and everything. This villain who was, in one way, or he was very justified in his rage and his vitriol toward Shawn. The match begins, Edge and Shawn trading blows. The fight goes to the outside. Edge hits an Edge-o-matic on the floor, going with the big guns early here. Edge on the attack for a while, going after Shawn's back. HBK tries to fight back, goes for a Hurricane Rana, but's caught in a powerbomb. Edge does a little taunt stealing as he continues the assault. Shawn with some nice moments of hope, like he dodges the top rope attack or he counters the suplex into a cover, but Edge stays on top. Shawn starts to make his comeback, complete with a slingshot into the corner. Edge tries to flee the scene, but Michaels grabs him. Edge with a spear on the floor, and man, Shawn's taking some big bumps on the outside for Edge in this match. Edge tunes up the band and he hits the spear in the ring, but we get a kick out. I know there is a blatant overuse of the shocked kick out face in WWE, especially today, but I have to give credit to Edge for this one because this one's hilarious. Shawn with the top rope elbow drop goes for sweet chin music, but Edge catches him in a perfect electric chair drop, another kick out. Edge locks in his new submission that he's debuted recently, the Educator. The rope break though. Roll up is countered into another roll up. Edge grabs the ropes while he's on top and steals the victory. This one gets 3.5 stars out of 5 for me. I enjoyed this match. It was a strong opener. They didn't go totally balls to the wall in this one. They would eventually later in their feud, but I thought it was a sneaky win, but it was still a good win for Edge. I think he really needed that one after getting one up by Shawn so much. And like I said, this was a great breakout program for Edge. They had a great blow-off street fight match 1 month later on Raw that was really good too. Backstage, GMs Eric Bischoff and Theodore Long are talking about which side will win the Royal Rumble match. In come Ric Flair and Eddie Guerrero to draw their numbers from the tumbler. Ric Flair draws one that he seems very happy about. Eddie draws his. They hug, but Eddie ends up stealing Ric's number in the process. Ooh, Eddie, you rascal! Elsewhere, Heidenreich's grunting to himself about how much he hates caskets, but is then joined by Gene Snitsky. Both men breathing heavily as Snitsky says he likes John. Heidenreich says he likes him back, but he still hates caskets. Snitsky says he has an idea. They breathe some more, and well, That sure happened. You know what? There was a small bit of ironic enjoyment that I got from seeing Snitsky and Heidenreich interact on screen, the rare times they did. There was the moment at Survivor Series the previous year where Snitsky's like, I like your poetry, and John's like, I like what you do to babies. And it really felt like they were going to build toward a Brothers of Destruction versus Heidenreich and Snitsky match at Mania. And I want to say, thank God they didn't pull the trigger on that. But also, looking back at hindsight, imagine if they did. Could you imagine that just holy trinity of the Brothers of Destruction versus Chronic versus Heidenreich and Snitsky versus DX? What a threesome of matches that would be for the history of the company. Anyway, time to close out this way too long storyline with a casket match as The Undertaker takes on Heidenreich. Yes, somehow this angle has gone all the way back to the fall where Heidenreich cost Taker title matches at both No Mercy and Armageddon. Taker did get one win back in between those two moments though. And there was also a brief period where Paul Heyman was managing Heidenreich. Hey, Paul Heyman's a genius, but he's not a miracle worker. Taker comes back and wants a casket match with Heidenreich at the Rumble, but wouldn't you know it, Heidenreich hates caskets. He tries to get out of the stipulation when he and Heyman have a handicap match against Taker on SmackDown, but Heidenreich ran away and left Paulie high and dry, so we haven't seen him for a couple of weeks. So they bring the casket down to the ring. I love how there's the ever-present fog surrounding it during the match here. Taker playing mind games with Heidenreich, trying to psych him out with the casket. John escapes. They brawl on the outside. Taker's flung into the casket and Heidenreich takes over. Repeated blows by John in the corner, but Taker hops up and puts him on a triangle choke. In comes Snitsky, who begins to stomp away on Taker, and it's all kosher because the match is no DQ. A rough-looking double suplex by the baddies here, but then Kane pops out of the casket. He and Snitsky have been warring for months, ever since Gene made Kane fall on a pregnant Lita, and now he's here to even the odds for his brother. Kane and Snitsky fight their way out of the picture as John nervously pushes the casket up the ramp. Minutes later, though, he hurls it into Taker's face as he sat against the ring. Heidenreich struggles mightily to get the Cobra Clutch locked in. He rolls Taker into the casket, but the dead man blocks it from shutting. Taker with a leg drop onto the casket lid over Heidenreich's back. John comes back, tries to end the match again. Taker fights back again, catches him with a DDT, hits a choke slam, but Heidenreich just sandbags him while he takes it, takes the tombstone. Heidenreich rolled into the casket and it shuts. Taker wins. I give this match 1.5 stars out of 5. This match was way longer than it had any right to be, and I don't think Heidenreich had any business being in the ring with Taker here. I think The Undertaker did what he could, but just Heidenreich didn't look good in this matchup. And the stuff with Snitsky and Kane near the end was fun and kind of made it a little more interesting, but again, that match went way too long, kind of hard to get through beyond that point. Poor Undertaker, been saddled with so many bad monster feuds over his career, and this one is just, you can add that to the list. Backstage, Theodore Long chastises Eddie Guerrero and tries to get Ric Flair's number back. Evolution barge in, they want the number as well. Triple H calls Eddie a jumping bean. Oof. Eddie gives back the number, and then after some joking around, Flair's reaction's great.
What? My wallet, my wallet!
Then there's some tension between Triple H and Batista about Evolution's next steps, but Flair plays peacekeeper and things settle down for now at least. Back in the main office, Christian gets his number. Then we see the US champ John Cena in his spinnerific glory. This is back when people still liked him, but they were getting to the point where they were not gonna like him soon. I mean, once you begin to sell merchandise that says Ruck Fools on it, it means you pretty much peaked. Christian wants to rap battle with Cena on the spot. And then we get this all-time great interaction with he and Tyson Tomko.
Tomko, give me a beat.
Christian busts some rhymes and says he's going to win for his peeps, which gets a nice pop. Cena responds with some bars of his own, mostly sex jokes, and gets one over on Captain Charisma. On we go to the WWE Championship match. It's a triple threat as John Bradshaw Layfield defends against Kurt Angle and The Big Show. And folks, the build to this matchup was fucking insane, and it all revolved around poor Joy Giovanni being caught in the crosshairs between all the parties. Who's Joy Giovanni, you might ask? Exactly. First off, there's a scene where Amy Weber of JBL's cabinet hits on Kurt Angle, tells him to meet her in her personal locker room. Kurt gets half naked in the shower expecting Amy, but it's Joy instead. It was a setup by JBL. Cut to the next week. Joy is found bound and gagged in the trunk of JBL's limo, but it was a setup by Kurt Angle. This is all making the Big Show very upset, who it's established has this very special relationship with Joy Giovanni. Now, they never explicitly say what the nature of the relationship is. They don't say if it's romantic or anything else, but if it's it's not romantic. It definitely comes off like this possible like father-daughter vibe, or maybe they were trying to go with like protective brother-sister thing, but it just, none of those really looked good here. I thought they were all no matter what angle you try and attack that with, it's all just very weird because the Big Show and Joy Giovanni as a pairing to me made no sense. Anyway, continuing the build here, JBL and Angle team up to take on the Big Show. Then on the go-home episode of SmackDown, the two turn on each other and fight each other in a last man standing match that was set up by the Big Show. Oh, these guys and their crazy schemes. Big Show begins the match throwing his weight around with JBL, turns his attention to Kurt Angle for a minute, takes them both out of the ring with a clothesline. Show setting up some steps by the announce table with evil intentions, but he gets KO'd by Angle, conveniently timbers through the table. Oh no, my complicated plan is ruined. Angle and JBL work together for a while. JBL's strikes look snug while Angle goes for the suplexes. Big Show re-enters the ring as a house of fire, but Angle and JBL hit the high-low to take him down, and Angle slam in massive air quotes on the Big Show. He eventually recovers. It's a chokeslam on JBL. The Goozle Show with an OMG moment as he tackles Gibbles through the barricade. Kurt's brought a chair into the ring, the cabinet checking on JBL on the outside, and then chaos just blows up from here. Mark Jindrak and Luther Reigns, Kurt's running buddies, show up. Big Show fights those guys off as Orlando Jordan revives JBL. He hits the clothesline from hell to Angle for the win. JBL snatching victory from the jaws of defeat once again. I give it 3 stars out of 5. It was a pretty zippy match given the parties involved here, but I think the flow of this match was really well. I think it was timed perfectly, and I think everyone got some time to shine. There were some fun moments here. I think the ending was a bit ridiculous for my taste. I mean, that was kind of the whole trademark of JBL championship matches, was these ridiculous stipulations and circumstances which JBL somehow is able to escape, and they ramped it up every single month. This one was pretty outlandish, but it would get even worse next month. And what happened to Joy Giovanni, the poor woman caught in the middle of all this drama between the wrestlers? Well, she was meant to be in a feud with the image consultant, A.B. Weber, but Weber quit the company in February. That's a whole other sad story revolving allegations of harassment and bullying. So Joy was kind of left blown in the wind for a while. She became one of the usual suspects in those SmackDown bikini contests before she was eventually released in July. Carlito Caribbean Cool, yes, he was still called that back then, is backstage with his petition to remove Theodore Long as SmackDown GM. Batista says no. Carlito goes for his apple spit, but then Batista asks if he remembered what happened on Raw this past week when he sodomized La Resistance at the flagpole. We sure do, Dave. So Carlito reconsiders. Batista goes to get his Rumble number as Bischoff and Long are bickering. Bischoff decides that Evolution is banned from ringside in the upcoming title match, and Batista says he'll deliver the news himself and seems pretty pleased about it. And now it's time to witness the final flailing moments of Randy Orton's miserable babyface run as he challenges Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship one more time. Our story so far: at New Year's Revolution, the Elimination Chamber match for the vacant world title, Orton had the match won, but Triple H won in the end after failing to help Batista from getting eliminated by Randy right before. Orton beat Batista in a match to become #1 contender as he tries to convince everyone he should be cheered on account of the fact that he's not Triple H. Very convincing stuff. Meanwhile, Batista is organically becoming a great babyface in waiting, and all signs point to him being in Orton's original spot for Mania. Orton starts out hot in the match, drops Triple H with the snake eyes, goes for an RKO, but H just throws him out of the ring. He takes over, does the Orton taunt, more back and forth, Triple H the big chop block, and spends the next several minutes working the leg. The fans go woo as the figure 4 is applied. The fans begin to boo Orton at this point in the match when he gets any offense in. Orton fires up with multiple punches. He actually does begin to win the fans back here. Big top rope crossbody, his old finisher, a close near fall. Some more dramatic back and forth here. Orton goes for a DDT. Triple H grabs the ropes to block it. Orton falls and appears to ring his own bell in the process. Concussion angle incoming. A groggy Orton gets back into the ring. Triple H takes him and the referee out, then grabs his sledgy. A very dramatic stalking shot here by H, but Orton's able to defend himself. Orton fumbles to grab the sledgehammer, takes a big clothesline instead. The pedigree, Triple H retains. I give this one 3.5 stars out of 5 for me. Kind of a mixed bag because I think the match was good. There was good drama in there, but I think it went a little bit too long for its own good. And then the concussion storyline felt like kind of a cheap way to build sympathy for Orton and trying just to protect him in another loss to Triple H, which he really didn't need at this point. And the concussion angle wouldn't even last that long, all told, because he would turn heel after he recovers from that in order to have his feud at Mania with The Undertaker. Backstage, Kurt Angle steals Nunzio's Rumble number and dares him to do something about it. Elsewhere, Bischoff and Long talk about how great that last match was with no outside interference, gives Long an idea. Just then, JBL and the Cabinet walk in and pop the bubbly in celebration. JBL shouts holla holla at his quote nephew Theodore Long. Long explains that JBL's got a match against the Big Show at No Way Out for the title in a barbed wire steel cage match. This was a great segment and one that I always remember just because how over the top and ridiculous JBL is. Also, if you listen, this is, I think, the first instance of him calling himself a wrestling god.
I'm a wrestling god.
I've got one other thing to tell you, pal.
Time now for your main event. It's the Royal Rumble match, and once again, the build, it's the Rumble match. What more do you need to know? At numbers 1 and 2, it's Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, the two guys who stood tall at the end of last year's WrestleMania. We get the graphs to start things off with them. Then at number 3, it's Daniel Puder, the $1 Million Tough Enough winner. And if you want to hear more about my thoughts on that little series within SmackDown, you can check out my review of it right here. But things do not go well for the young Puder, who recently turned heel after winning what was essentially a popularity contest. He gets on the mic and says he'll be the first Tough Enough champ to win the Rumble. He immediately gets his ass beat by Benoit and Guerrero, and then at number 4, oh God, Danny, save yourself. It's Hardcore Holly, who JR says on commentary here, he hates rookies. Holly lights this kid up. Puder's chest is getting beat red as all three guys chop the hell out of him. Puder's initiation is complete and he is dumped out unceremoniously as the Hurricane shows up at number 5. Bob Holly is thrown out next. Hurricane is launched out of the ring as we get number 6, the Bronze Warrior, Kenzo Suzuki, fresh off his incredibly one-sided US title feud with John Cena. Number 7, Edge is back out for the second time this evening. At number 8, Rey Mysterio. He eliminates Suzuki and walks right into Eddie's tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. Number 9, Shelton Benjamin, the Intercontinental Champion. At number 10, Booker T. Taz points out that Booker T and Triple H main evented last year's WrestleMania. No, they did not. Eric Bischoff shows up at ringside to cheer on his Raw guys. At number 11, Chris Jericho enters the fray. He's a House of Fire as Theodore Long also shows up at ringside. At number 12, acknowledge him, it's Luther Reigns. And suddenly we get the Raw versus SmackDown face-off into a brawl, which gets a pretty good reaction from the fans here, though honestly they should have just broken out into song again like in the commercial. I'm kind of surprised this next guy's music didn't start playing before the buzzer went off. At number 13, it's Muhammad Hassan. He gets in the ring and is promptly beaten up by everyone there. It doesn't matter if they're Team Red or Team Blue. Let's all beat up the angry Arab American. They pick him up and they dumped him out. That'll teach you to criticize this country. At number 14, Orlando Jordan of the Cabinet. At number 15, Scotty 2 Hotty doesn't enter the Rumble at all as he's beaten up by Muha on the outside, taken out of commission. Number 16, Charlie Haas. Luther Reigns is out, Orlando Jordan is out, Booker T is spinnerooning, then falls out of the ring. Number 17, Rene Dupree with Fifi. There's a brief callback to the world's greatest tag team with a big leapfrog spot. Benjamin goes for a stinger splash, ends up landing on his feet on the top rope, and Edge pushes him off. Number 18, Simon Dean, the fitness specialist, comes to the ring and does some warm-ups before entering. JR is heated.
He's warming up. You've had all damn day to warm up. Get in the ring, you idiot.
Eddie taken out by Edge. JR can't contain his rage for Simon Dean for whatever reason. As Shawn Michaels enters at 19, he immediately takes out Simon Dean, then eliminates Haas. At number 20, it's Kurt Angle, formerly Nunzio's spot. He takes out everyone, but then he and Shawn Michaels tussle. HBK with a sweet chin music eliminates Angle in seconds. At number 21, it's the Coach, Jonathan Coachman, who got his spot after Bischoff took William Regal's spot away and gave it to him. Jericho and Mysterio fighting in the ropes, and at number 22, it's Mark Jindrak. He and Kurt Angle get in the ring together. Kurt throws Michaels out of the ring and lays him out with the steel steps. HBK's busted open as Kurt keeps laying it in, puts him in the ankle lock. I smell a Mania match. At number 23, it's Viscera, and Jim Ross says if you want an accurate reading of his weight, we need a livestock scale. Number 24 is Paul London. Dupree takes him down and busts out the French tickler. The best part about the French tickler is Taz's French tickler jingle.
I'm a French man, I'm a French tickle guy.
At number 25, his name is John Cena! He runs in guns blazing but is cut off by Viscera, but Cena eliminates him all by himself. Coach doing nothing but selling in the corner in a heap at this point. Number 26, Gene Snitsky. He and London fight and they make their way to the apron. An iconic elimination when Snitsky hits a clothesline and London shooting star presses his way to the the floor. I love that moment. It stays with me all the way to this day. But apparently that spot was not popular with the higher-ups. London has said in later interviews he got some heat for doing that spot, doing that bump off the apron, because apparently it was taking the moment away from other people. First of all, no, it wasn't. If anything, it was just adding something to London, but it didn't take anything away from the other guys. That's a completely ridiculous statement, and I think it made the Rumble match a little bit better. Number 27, Kane comes to the ring and he chokeslams everyone as Paul London gets medical attention. Kane eliminates Jindrak. Coach gets real brave for a second, but he regrets it. At number 28, it's Batista, who forces Snitsky over the top. He hits Kane with the Batista bomb, dumps out Chris Jericho. At number 29, it's Christian. Cena picks up Kane and FUs him out of the ring. At number 30, it's the 1992 winner looking to go for a second time, Ric Flair. He and Batista destroy Coachman. They do it to Christian. They dump out Benoit. Flair tries to grab Batista, but not so fast. Edge with a spear on the Nature Boy and throws him out. The final four are Edge, Batista, Mysterio, and Cena. Edge spearing Batista and Cena goes to the hat trick on Ray, but he takes the 619 instead. He recovers, spears Ray from the match. Cena and Batista take out Edge, and we're down to 2. What a moment in time this is for both these guys' careers. Cena has Dave on his shoulders, tries to get the FU, but he can't pull it off. Batista goes for his bomb, but both men tumble out, and despite this looking like a picture-perfect double finish, this was apparently not in the plans. The story is Batista was supposed to win, and win non-controversially, but apparently he slipped doing the powerbomb spot. They both go over the top. The way they cover for this is pretty amazing because it looks 100% worked. The way they timed it and the way the referees are reacting. There's referee confusion. Who won? No one really knows. And then in all confusion, out comes Mr. McMahon, who comes from a gorilla position. He storms his way to the ring. He slides into the ring. He bangs his leg on the top of the apron and tears his quadricep in the process. He goes to get up, but his other leg is too weak, so he just sits there awkwardly, somehow not selling anything all the while as Cena and Batista throw each other out unofficially until we get word that baby boy Vince wants the match restarted, and somehow he powers through until he tries to walk unassisted to the back, wherein he tears his other quadricep. What an insane performance that was by Vince McMahon. For someone who wasn't supposed to be on the show at all, he pops out there, tears both his quads, doesn't sell a lick of it because he's on camera. I mean, that's the heart of a champion right there. After a brief scuffle, Batista throws Cena out and officially wins the match. As for who he ends up challenging at WrestleMania, well, you already know. This one gets 4 stars out of 5 for me. This is a very entertaining Rumble, and you know, even though there were a couple of quick eliminations, especially featuring like really big names in the thing, I think that the tent poles, the ones you had going through a long period of this match, I think they did a good job holding everything together. I thought it was a great setup for a couple of key Mania matches, and of course there's some unforgettable moments peppered throughout, whether or not they were intentional. You know, even though Paul London got heat for the shooting star, that was still one of the better eliminations of the entire decade as far as I'm concerned for Rumble matches. The finish was iconic for so many reasons, good and bad. Again, it's amazing that wasn't a work because it looked exactly like just trying to recreate Bret and Luger from '94. And so the way they did it and the way they recovered for it, even though Vince tore both his quads in the process, like it made for a more dramatic ending for the show, to be sure. My grade for the 2005 Royal Rumble is a B. I think it was one of the better overall Rumble pay-per-views with a mostly strong undercard, barring the casket match of Taker and Heidenreich, and a memorable Rumble match in its own right. And, you know, every year there's this debate that pops up during Rumble season where it's like, is the Rumble match supposed to make a star? People pick, oh, so-and-so should win because it's supposed to make a star. It certainly can do that. It certainly did with Batista on this night, and I would also argue to a lesser extent to John Cena. But you know, statistically, if you look at the history of the winners and the percentages, you know, they don't always make stars. It's not supposed to make it. I don't think it's by design for it to make a star. It just sets someone up for a Mania main event. But it can make stars, and it absolutely did with Batista here. And so I think it was definitely one of the better, if you want that category of which Rumble matches made a star, this is definitely one of the top ones in my opinion.
We'll step into the ring, we'll reach an understanding. When the smoke is clear, I'll be the last man standing. I'm gonna settle every score tonight.